see and live from the thoughts of God.
Being rooted in Christ is the ultimate solution. He shines for you to see the way you should go. You see gifts you didn't know you had. You become livened up in hope, faith, and love. You manifest Zoe and reflect His light. You are a container of His light. His glow is hard to miss. It's the glow of favor. Now Joseph was a Hebrew boy who was sold to Potiphar to be a slave. Though Potiphar was a heathen, he saw that Joseph was successful. He saw that God was with Joseph.
And Jehovah is with Joseph, and he is a prosperous man, and he is in the house of his Lord, the Egyptian. And his Lord see that Jehovah is with him, and all that he is doing, Jehovah is causing it to prosper in his hand. And Joseph findeth grace in his eyes, and serveth him, and he appointed him over his house, and all that he hath given into his hand. And it cometh to pass from the time that he hath appointed him over his house, and over that he hath, that Jehovah blessed the house of the Egyptian for Jehovah's sake. And the blessing of Jehovah is on all that he hath in the house and in the field.
Genesis chapter 39 verse 2-5 YLT. A heathen saw the favor of God on a young man who had nothing to his name. He was just a slave, but the blessing on his life was so evident. Potiphar was pleased with what he saw. As a result, he promoted Joseph to be his personal attendant. All of a sudden, Potiphar's household started to be prosperous. Later, Joseph was accused of a crime he didn't commit. He was arrested and imprisoned. However, Joseph got promoted by the prison warden to be in charge of the prisoners. As time went by, Joseph was discharged and he became the ruler of Egypt. Egypt prospered during his reign. Thus, it's possible for people who are not believers to see the favor of God on you. They can see that His presence is with you. This does not mean that you have to play act for people to see that the presence of God is with you. That's what other people do, and that sort of engaging in works. It should occur effortlessly by grace through faith as you focus on Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 17-18. You are a carrier of the solution needed by the world. You have the influence to cause things to align to the will of God. By the nature of your union with Christ, you are a son of the light. You have special endowment to see in the Spirit and interpret things. You see situations as nothing. They are not a threat. You see the wisdom and the glory of this world as done. Only that which belongs to Christ matters the most. As you focus on the glory of God in Christ, you automatically receive illumination. You begin to see in His perspective. This causes you to experience prosperity and good health.
If then ye were raised with the Christ, the things above seek ye, where the Christ is, on the right hand of God seated. The things above mind ye, not the things upon the earth. For you did die, and your life hath been hid with Christ in God.
Colossians chapter 3 verse 1-3 YLT. If you focus on the sense realm, your thoughts will be darkened and you will yield failure and other negative consequences of sin. Your focus should be on Christ, the light. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 2, John chapter 8 verse 12. There is need for you to meditate on Him. But seek ye first the reign of God and His righteousness, and all these shall be added to you. Matthew chapter 6 verse 33 YLT. Hence, you seek and receive those things which are above. You focus on His thoughts. This is thinking big in order to become big. Remember that you only go where your mind is been to. Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7. You tend to follow the mind. Your thoughts have to be higher thoughts for you to reach higher heights. You put on an altitude attitude by focusing on heavenly things. Colossians chapter 3 verse 1. You should think about affairs of the spirit realm where Christ is. Set your mind on higher realities of where Christ is. That's where you entered when you got born again. Your innermost being is with Christ.
And God, being rich in kindness, because of His great love with which He loved us, even being dead in the trespasses, did make us to live together with Christ. By grace ye are, having been saved, and did raise us up together, and did sit us together in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus, that we might show in the ages that are coming the exceeding riches of His grace and kindness toward us in Christ Jesus. For by grace you are, having been saved through faith, and this is not of you, of God the gift, not of works, that no one may boast.
Ephesians chapter 2 verse 4-9 YLT. You are seated with Christ at the right hand of the Father, and you reign as a king. That's where your treasure is. Matthew chapter 6 verse 20. You have the treasure within you. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 7. And we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellence of the power may be of God and not of us. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 7 of the YLT. As you engross your mind with the thoughts of the gospel of Christ, you automatically speak it to change circumstances. Your gospel-based decrees and prayers will change you, your family, community, and nation, all the way to the ends of the earth. Things align to the perfect will of God. That's why you must speak His thoughts and not the way things seem to be. The gospel of Christ is composed of the higher thoughts of God. You ought to speak according to His higher thoughts and reverse your circumstances. Release the gospel power in your situations by decrees and prayers.